As we mentioned at the beginning of the program, the first bus of illegal aliens who were released from federal custody in Texas arrived this morning here in Washington, D.C. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has called Texas Governor Greg Abbott's busing strategy a publicity stunt. But the governor says this is about filling the gaps and keeping Texas safe as the federal government, quote, continues to turn a blind eye to the border crisis, end quote. And of course, the transportation of migrants to D.C. is not the only action Texas is taking. Here with me now to tell us more about what his state is doing in response to the Biden administration's decision to terminate Title 42 on May the 23rd is Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas. Governor Patrick, welcome back to the program.
Great to be with you, my friend. Great to be with you. And sorry, I couldn't be on your regular Zoom here. We had a 3-hour church service today for a slain officer, and it was a great service in the memory of this young lady who was killed in the line of duty. And so, but I'm pleased to join you. I was pleased to join. You know, you always see the power of God, Tony, in these services. You always see the power of God and the strength of God and the hope to get these families through. But it was a tough day for law enforcement.
Yes, it is. I actually conducted a funeral for a law enforcement officer just a few weeks ago, and it is a time the community comes together, but a time of reflection of those things that are most important. Let's move to this issue of the border. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, President Biden still has not visited the southern border. Is that right?
No, you're right. Joe Biden has not been here, and Kamala Harris made a joke of it by going to El Paso. And El Paso is obviously a big border area, but it's not like the Rio Grande Valley. And when she went there, it was a photo op. She got off the plane. She met with some staff and a couple of, I don't think she was on the ground more than 90 minutes and never really went anywhere near where illegal immigrants are passing. And Tony, this for your audience to understand the breadth of this issue, that how it will impact the future of America. I was on Fox last week and talked about the fact that by the end of the first term of Biden, we could be close to having 1 out of every 5 people living in America being here illegally. That's 20%. If you go back to 1990 through 2021, we had about 30 million people apprehended. These are Border Patrol statistics. And, you know, most law enforcement will tell you we get 1 out of 2 or 3. I use a low number, 1 out of 1. So that's 30 times 2 is 60 million people. Plus the gotaways, those are the ones we see on camera, but we can't catch because by the time we get there, they're gone because we have a 1,200-mile border. And when you add up all these numbers and you take out the 8 million we deported and you take out the 20 million that have gone back on their own over 30 years, you're still looking at somewhere near 38 million people that are here. And then you look at the Biden administration. When he repeals Title 42, Tony, we're projecting that that's another 10.5 million people that will come in during the next 3 years. And again, if we catch 1 for every 1 that gets away, that's 21 million people. And you add that to 38 million, there you're close to 60 million, 20%. So 20% of the population here illegally, not with our values. Many not educated. You know, we put them into our school system. They're 2 and 3 grade levels behind. You can't put a 15-year-old in the 4th grade. They drop out of school. They crowd our emergency rooms. They take jobs away from Americans. And the truth is, what do they do when they get here? Because without a Social Security number, you really can't work. So the Biden administration, Tony, will be the next move you'll see soon in the next year. Give everyone a green card, and that's the pathway to citizenship with this pathway to voting. And then you have, you know, in the next decade or so, you have, you know, 30, 40 million voters, many of them that will want to vote Democrat because he's the one who brought them here.
Is that the bigger strategy here that the left is pursuing? Is this about the elections?
Absolutely. Nothing but the election. Here's what's interesting, Tony, and you bring up a great point. I think many people saw in Texas this year that we had last session, we had multiple sessions, and the big story that the Democrats left and broke quorum and went to Washington for a couple of months in the summer. Well, think about this, Tony. We had a remarkable conservative session. First of all, we passed the heartbeat bill, which has reduced abortions in Texas by 60 to 70%. We've saved about 30,000 babies' lives just since that bill became law in September. Did they leave over that? No. We passed a bill to stop boys from playing girls' sports. Did they leave and go to Washington over that? No. We passed election integrity so that it's easy to vote and harder to cheat. That's what they left for. That's what they didn't want to pass. They want to control the elections and make this a one-party country, and that's what's going on. Look, this if you look at another side of it, Tony, as Christians and just Americans, we shouldn't want people to come to America in the back of a 18-wheeler where they suffocate. We shouldn't want these children and women being sex trafficked because we don't know who they are. We don't know where they're being sent. We had one Baptist organization in San Antonio that was doing a great job of taking care of some of these kids. They got so annoyed and so concerned about what the Biden administration was doing of sending kids to anywhere that they closed shop because they don't want to be a part of what could be sex trafficking. This is inhumane to people coming here. It's dangerous. We're creating indentured servants because many of these people pay or guarantee the cartel they'll pay them their $5,000 or $8,000 once they don't have that kind of money, so they make a down payment and then they send their wages back. If they don't send their wages back, then their families are threatened. No, this is for the president not to know what's going on. It's either negligence, stupidity, or the plan. It's the plan.
And these policies are enticing people to come across the border, putting them at risk, not to mention the drugs and the other items that are coming across our border that put our citizens at risk as well.
Yep. The fentanyl has become the number one killer of people 25 to 40 in America. It's coming across in waves. And, I said earlier when I gave you those stats, we've apprehended. Last year we normally apprehended about 450,000 a year. It was 2 million roughly, plus the gotaways, another several hundred thousand, plus the ones we don't know. But what the cartels do, Tony, is they cram all of our ports of entry to where all our Border Patrol has time to do is process and put people on buses or airplanes and send them all over the country in the middle of the night. They don't have time to actually work the border.
Right.
So the cartels send these families and a lot of single adults into big areas, and then they have the rest of the 1,200-mile border to do what they want, bring across contraband and people. And they make as much money from people as they do contraband now, according to some in law enforcement. And Tony, we're doing the best we can. We normally, when I became lieutenant governor in 2015, we increased our border funding to $400 million a year. This year we'll spend $4 billion, Tony, close to $4 billion, because we have the National Guard there, we have our troopers there, more assets, more cameras, more everything.
And it's,
but until you get a federal government to help you, the border's open.
Right. It's a federal issue. Lieutenant Governor, I got to leave it there. We're out of time. Thanks so much for joining us.